Hey, everybody. Great news in regards to the purchase agreement. There is an update to that, which I believe will address many of the little concerns that we've had going on. I'm not going to cover the entire purchase agreement, but rather, as you can see on your screen, highlight those things that have been or have had changes to them. Now, all of these should be fairly simple. You're going to notice I've got pretty much everything highlighted. First one is paragraph 1 is that we have added into this the invisible in-ground fencing and related equipment. Another is a simple one where there's clarification that is stating items specifically excluded in the listing agreement or MLS publication must be listed hereafter or they will be deemed included in the sale. So, therefore, the following items are excluded. Now, look, this is your purchaser that you're working with. We want to make this simple, and right offers can be accepted. If there were items that were excluded, you do want to put them in there. Make sure that they are listed. Next is in regard to paragraph 5, and this was pulled out and placed in its own separate paragraph. So that it's very clear, but a statement being made in regards to the contingency on the sale of a home. This offer is or is not contingent upon the sale or closing of the buyer's property or other closing assets. This offer is contingent on the sale of the buyer's property. You're going to see the attached addendum. So that was pulled out of previously the method of payment, paragraph 4B, and is now a separate paragraph all on its own. Buyer compensation, buyer broker compensation, a minor arrangement because, guys, as we know, we really want the seller to be the one to show they're paying by offering a credit toward the buyer broker's fee. The second is the buyer that we would like to have the buyer pay it, and the third would be a broker compensation agreement. Let me give clarification. This would be us asking another broker to pay that. But obviously, guys, we still want the buyer to collect and have it paid from the seller or the buyer directly. That is just another option on how compensation can be made. So it's there. If another broker is willing to do it, it's on their shoulders, not ours. But it's the buyer's offer. Now, the other is a simple part where we've added at the time of closing. So there's a clarification at closing. Somebody's going to make sure that we, the buyer broker, are being compensated. Paragraph 9 is, there's I'm going to say a bit of a change. We pulled out closing costs. The further we read that, we realized it was redundant, and I'm going to slide down to paragraph 15, where you'll see it says, buyer agrees to pay all closing fees charged by a lender or title company. Well, the old paragraph 9 just made this redundant. So it is now here along with the compliance transaction fee $395 payable to our company, our office. Now let me jump back up here. With that, now paragraph 9 is the earnest money deposit. There is a section which we've had with the last revision where it's being deposited with either Century 21 Professionals or Goldwell Banker Professionals, but we've added this, that it is an escrowee. And we've also added can be wired directly to escrowee. So those are key changes to paragraph number 9. Again, we addressed paragraph 15. This is probably the biggest change, and yet we hope, folks, it's simplified. But as we all know, we have a company that goes from Port Huron over to the west side of Lansing, from Midland down to Plymouth. So there's a lot of area that we need to cover. And what we've now done is basically put them in an order of what is most common. Now, it's also addressed it more clearly. It's nothing left for interpretation unless you're clicking one of the other ones here. However, let me first put paragraph 16 is stating that sellers shall pay transfer taxes and other costs required to convey title. So if you were pretty sharp, you might have noticed that in the purchase agreement, that was actually dropped out on the previous version. It is now added back in. And then, of course, it's stating that all property taxes due and payable on or before the date of closing shall be paid by seller. The current year's real estate taxes will be paid as follows. Now, again, we put these in order of what would be most prominent, which for most of our company is real property taxes will be prorated as if they are billed in advance based on the fiscal year of the appropriate taxing authorities. Most of you, that will be the common one that you're going to check, unless if you're selling what may be more out of your area. Second one, taxes will be prorated as if paid in arrears based on the calendar year of the taxing authority. Third one, taxes first billed in the year of closing will be prorated so that the seller will pay taxes from the first of the year through the day prior to closing date, and the buyer will pay taxes for the balance of the year, including the date of closing. If you're going, what the heck did that just say? Guys, most likely it doesn't apply to you, or you're selling in an area that you shouldn't be selling in. Last one here, I shouldn't say last, but no tax proration will be paid. Not common, but it is possible. So again, no tax proration will be paid. Seller will pay the taxes which are due before the date of closing. Buyer will pay taxes which are due on or after the date of closing. And of course, I still have left you with as per local custom of the local taxing authority. We did add in custom of the local taxing authority, and then one additional that gives you the flexibility. I won't say to get created, but remember the purchase agreement will rule. Now, this portion that I put here, buyers should not assume that buyers' future tax bills on the property will be the same as the seller's present tax bills, under Michigan law, real property tax obligations can change significantly when property is sold. And guys, we're having buyers initial this. There's nothing worse. And if you bought a home and the first time in Michigan, taxes on cap, and all of a sudden there's a huge jump, and you got buyers that got to figure out how they're going to do this or how they're going to handle this new payment because they had it on a mortgage with an escrow payment. Huge issues, and we want to make sure they're aware of it in advance. And so make sure this is covered. Review the purchase agreement with them and make sure they understand what the likelihood is going to happen with taxes. There is a little clarification with the contingent home sales addendum. So when we do have a contingent home sale, as with paragraph 5, we now have this to address. Little addition to the well and septic. Nothing really changed. Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, Washtenaw, Isabella, Ingram, Shiawassee are counties known to require, but we've also added, if the property is located in any municipality known to require a well or septic inspection at the time of sale, then you should be seeing an attached addendum. And of course, that would get up here with a well septic addendum that you would have completed. And what I'm going to tell you is use the one that is appropriate for your area. That's going to be the way to do it. So look for that, but there is that little addition to it. Let me drop down to the last couple that we have. Paragraph 44. There was, I won't get too much into the depth of it, but it didn't cover all situations with paragraph 44. So we had to make a clarification as to what are the designated agents, who are they representing, because in the event we know that the agent, or if it was in-house, if it was an agent who had both sides, then we had dual agency for that designated agent and for the supervisory broker. However, what happened when an agent had had both sides, but only represented one of either the buyer or the seller? We also had to address, well, what about when we have two separate agents who are designated to represent one the buyer and the other the seller? Well, then the supervisory broker actually was a disclosed dual agent. So that's the paragraph 44 adjustment. We are now looking that it's the statement that the designated agents of the buyer and or the seller. Therefore, the buyers and sellers acknowledge that Century 21 Professionals or Coldwell Banker Professionals is representing only the buyer or the seller. So there's a reason that this line is here, this line is here, and this line is here. This is representing only. This is representing both. And this is for the aspect of the supervisory broker being disclosed as a dual agent. Because see, if we only represent the buyer and or the seller, well, let me recheck that. If it is representing only the buyer or only working for the buyer, we're going to check buyer, buyer, seller, seller. But I may have buyer and seller, therefore is. Or one agent could be representing the buyer, the other representing the seller, and therefore both buyer and seller. Therefore, we are representing both buyer and seller, be it as one designated agent representing both or two designated agents, one representing the buyer, one representing the seller. Then in that case, both are representing. The designated agents are representing both the buyer and the seller. The more you think about it, the clearer that will become. Big question. If you only represent the buyer, check, check, check. If you represent both buyer and seller, you are the designated agent, check, and check, and check, because you are representing both. Again, this is all about disclosing the supervisory broker, and only the supervisory broker. It's the disclosure of that supervisory broker. Let's also take it this way. CB agent is designated to represent the buyer. Another CBP agent designated to represent the seller. Check, check, check. Both are the representing both. Each agent is representing one, but the supervisory broker representing both. All right, I'm going to clarify for the last, and this is just literally that, a little bit of restructuring, clarification. Hopefully we get more of these checked off correctly by a listing broker, but it is formatted slightly different, that the offer is hereby accepted as written or subject to the following changes, and they would make those changes in here. So that's just a simple check. Hopefully it makes it easier for our listing brokers and sellers to be able to complete this portion correctly. So guys, that is the new purchase agreement. updated, I shouldn't refer to it as new, but our updated purchase agreement. I hope it makes sense for you. We'll probably do a hot topic coming up on this, and we'll take the time to answer any additional questions that you guys might have. So, with that, I'll wish you a great one, and we'll talk to you soon.